To record. All right, everybody ready? Give me some thumbs up if you are ready to start. So all those who are hiding behind their camera screens, let's get cracking. All right, here. Oh, there we go. We've got some thumbs up. So it's definitely living. Here we go. Big flourish to start with. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this wonderful program that we have for you this evening. To the thousands watching on Zoom and the millions who will be watching this on YouTube, welcome on behalf of myself, Nick Kett at Bushey Synagogue, as well as in conjunction with Stanmore Synagogue, Borehamwood Synagogue, Shenley and Radlett. It is wonderful to have you all here with us this evening. It's no secret, but very, very soon it is going to be Rosh Hashanah. It is a very interesting Rosh Hashanah to be marking and to be celebrating, coming at a really difficult time for a lot of us and for a lot of families. And so we wanted to just bring everybody together this evening, first of all, in order to help you understand and appreciate that we, as the faces, as it were, of your communities, we are here for you. We want to support you in any way we can. We don't have the usual frills, the usual opportunities, the usual access points to be able to mark our Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and ultimately Sukkot experiences. Is going to be looking very, very different for a lot of us. We have been trying to survive and thrive in these environments, being at home a lot of the time with our families, trying to find ways to engage with them, trying to find ways to make Jewish Shabbats and Chagim and making it meaningful and enjoyable for our children. We may usually have the support of rabbis, rebbitzins, teachers, chadarim, our Jewish schools, our organizations. Usually we might be running around from place to place in the run up to these Chagim, taking our children to different programs, activities and events. And we just simply have not got those opportunities this year. So we've brought you all together in order to benefit from the expertise, from the advice of some fantastic Jewish educators. We are joined tonight by Sara Kibel from PJ Library. We are joined by Sammy Morhaim from Jewish Interactive. They will, in but a few moments, be sharing with us some of the advantages and some of the benefits that their organizations have to offer in helping us do whatever we can to make it special for our children and make it special for our families. And I'm going to be handing over very shortly to Sammy. I just wanted to share a couple of small thoughts, something for us to keep in mind as we approach these days and these weeks. You know, years ago when I was in sixth form, I used to go with friends to watch cricket. To be honest, I wasn't that interested in cricket, but it was a nice social experience for me and my friends. And I was in a little crowd at the time that were very into cricket. So, you know, the tickets were cheap. It was an experience to sit in Lord's, and I went along as a sixth former to watch a few matches, Middlesex, one-day matches, and it was an experience. You sit for a long time waiting for the action to happen, and you're eating and you're drinking, and I mean, back then we didn't have it, but I imagine if I was to go now, I'd be sitting there on my phone half the time, twiddling my thumbs. And as a spectator, it's a very slow-moving experience. But if we think for a second how the players take it, you know, they're not just arriving minutes before the game starts, taking their seat and just assuming that everything's going to happen around them. When you're playing the game, it takes a lot of effort. When you're playing the game, you have to be there hours in advance, getting yourself psyched up, getting yourself ready, making sure that everything's in place, so that when you step out onto the field, you are ready, you are energized, you are in the zone to be able to make it the best cricket match of your life. The same would apply to any sport, to any activity. The people who are involved in it, they're not just rocking up expecting it all to go well. It takes preparation, it takes planning. And so in a similar vein, as we step up to the plate this year as parents, trying to do whatever we can for our children, it does help to have a little bit of support and a little bit of prep in order to be able to show up on the day and be ready and prepared and to have your resources in place. So a little later on, I'm going to share with you some of the things that Bushey Shul have been putting together. But for now, I'm going to hand you over to Sammy, our first team captain for this evening, who's going to give us our pep talk, who's going to share with us his wisdom. And so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Sammy Morhaim.
If you've got a clapping noise, please do it now. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nick. It's a privilege to be here with lots of new and old faces. So I work for Jewish Interactive, and who are Jewish Interactives? Jewish Interactive are a non-for-profit organization that provide technology solutions for kids, parents, teachers, specifically schools, and help kids actually engage with their Jewish learning through the technological medium. So what I'm going to demonstrate for you in a second is actually a story that was created using our technology. And I'm going to show you that you and your kids can actually make their own preparation for Hashanah, either creating their own online game or actually just creating something that can be printed off before Chag. I can't remember who said it, and I should have Googled it beforehand. I think it was one of the US presidents that sort of like, if you tell me, I'll listen. And it ends up by saying, if you do it, then you'll actually know it. So even if it's a technological resource, the fact that children are preparing by creating something before the Chag, it makes their minds start thinking about the different facts and different topics to do with the Chagim, and that in and of itself is a form of preparation. Even if their game doesn't look that great, they're thinking about shofar, they're thinking about the pomegranate, they're thinking about honey, they're thinking about, and that's how education works. As Nick correctly said, the more preparation you put in, the more you feel that you're ready and prepared for the Chag. So let me just share with you a resource. It's a famous story. I'll just share that with you now. I'm going to press the share button, share screen. Here we go. So I'm going to share my iPad screen with you. And hopefully Nick, give me a real thumbs up, not a yellow one, in a minute when you see my iPad screen. Okay, you've seen my iPad screen. Okay, so this is a famous story called the Call of the Shofar. I'm going to let you listen to this story. It's a famous story, but it's now showing you in a different medium where it's been created using our application. So here we go.
The Call of the Shofar. Danny was an orphan. He didn't have a mum or dad. He didn't remember very much about them or what they taught him. Tap on Danny. I've left the orphanage and I now want to find out more about who I am. I know that I'm a Jew, but I know very little about it. After walking some distance, he came across a large building with a star on it and heard some interesting singing coming from within. Tap on Danny to hear his thoughts. What are those sounds? They sound so familiar to me. I'm going to go in and have a listen.
So here, obviously, if someone's playing this game, they can tap on the tune that he was hearing and they can learn the Avinu Malkeinu tune. And also got the translation that comes up there. We're going to move further on.
Inside the shul, he saw people praying. He remembered something about praying. He didn't know what to say. He remembered that there is something called Hashem, God, and he wanted to speak to him. Tap on Danny to hear his thoughts. Oh, if only I could pray. I don't know what to say. Please, help me today. Danny remembers some letters that he learned when he was very young. Tap on Danny. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daled, and Hey. These are the only Jewish things I can say. God up above, please hear my plea. Listen to my prayer, please hear me. The old man at the back of the shul heard Danny sing these letters deep from within his heart, and he approached him to speak with him. Tap on the old man, then tap on Danny. Young man, you have inspired me. What do you mean? All I know is Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Talad, and He. How could I possibly inspire you? The old man explains. Tap on the old man, then on Danny. Today is Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. It is a day when we are judged by Hashem, by God. We blow the shofar, and the sound of the shofar is like our deep inner sound. Know the shofar,
etc., etc.
The
So
call
that's the
of the
famous
shofar.
story.
Sammy, I don't know why, but you're muted. I'm sorry.
I think it's because when I shared my screen. Okay, so that story, as I said, so that story can be found on our platform, and children can access that story. But what the difference between that story and one that's being read, which is also very, very powerful, is that the children can choose when they want to engage with the stories. They can tap on the characters and they can listen to what's going on there. But I'm going to just share with you how you can actually, your children or you yourselves can create your own content. I'm going to share my screen again. Hopefully I will not be muted this time. Let me know, Nick, where you can see my screen with a thumbs up. Okay, so this game, if I tap on the pencil in my green box there, you'll see that this game is literally made up of like a bit like a PowerPoint, and it was put together like this. Now, how would I create something myself? Now, famously on Rosh Hashanah, especially on the first night of Rosh Hashanah, we have these simanim, the different foods. So the kids themselves can start thinking about those foods and what we do and how we use them. So, for example, if I go into JI Tap, which I will share with you in the chat box shortly, when you go into create your own game, you've got an amazing array of clip arts from all around the Jewish curriculum. There's Ivrit, there's modern Hebrew, incredible amount of content here. At the very top, there'll always be what's relevant and current. So since it's Rosh Hashanah, it'll be this. Look, if I tap on Simanim here, you'll see there's lots of different items to do with Simanim. So if I would press this one over here, you'll see now my screen filled with the special prayers that we say for the different foods that we have on Rosh Hashanah night. So if you want to do this with your children or by themselves, they can click on this and then you can try and work out with them what these different things have got to do with. If they can read Hebrew, the last one it says, the first one on the right-hand side says, Shetikadesh Aleinu Shana Tova Matuka. So it means, Matuka means sweet. So what things, what items would they have in that box? What are we going to say that special prayer for? So we're going to say on apple and honey. So they can just tap on apple and honey and they can put that inside that box. So now they're thinking about all the different things that we're doing, but we're about to do in Rosh Hashanah. So this whole box can be filled up with all the different simanims. I can put the pomegranates and all the etc. All these other items, and there's the fish head. Actually, I'm in Israel now, and in the freezers, it's a bit gross. They've got all the sheep heads. It's like really quite gross, but people do that. Sure, it's lovely. So then once we've even got a whole plate of this simanim there as well, the whole fish plate, the whole plate with all different items there. So as you can see here, you've got all the different songs, all the different prayers, and the children can literally experience all the different items through Rosh Hashanah before they even get there. So that is all done on JI Tap. So let me just take you through the steps about how to find JI Tap. So whether you're on an iPad or you're on a desktop, we just go into our Google, here we go. We'll just type on here jitap.net. It will take you straight away to the website. And here you will see there's a search bar like many other websites. And here, if you just tap in here, Rosh Hashanah, you'll find Rosh Hashanah. You'll find all different contents to do with Rosh Hashanah that you and your kids can play with. Loads of different activities. You probably find the call of the shofar there somewhere. All these different items to do with Rosh Hashanah, how to make a shofar, all different items here. But if your kids want to make their own, they can tap on this create button here, and that will take them into a whole new area where they can then create their own content. This can be done on an iPad, or it can be done, as it looks like I have to log in here, or it can be done on a computer itself. So I'm just going to drop into the chat box now, the website, as well as another website, which has nothing to do with us, but it's called torahlive.org. And there's a fantastic website, which is free, that children can actually learn about a shofar factory. And it even talks about the shofar during Corona. And you see people going to the factories with a face mask on and you know, what's going to happen and what should they think about. And it's a beautiful, beautiful demonstration. There's one man there who has a shofar that his grandfather gave him, whose grandfather gave him. So he's got a great-great-grandfather's shofar that was passed down to generations. And he's got a whole collection in his, like 60, a beautiful idea. I've just put it in the chat there for you. So that's torahlive.com, and we're jitap.net, which I put in the chat box. And these are lots of ways that the children can feel engaging with the Chag if you don't feel that you've got the knowledge yourself. And I'm open now to the floor for any questions. If you want to ask about how to access any of the items or how to create. Otherwise, you can just reach out to me and I'll put that in the chat box as well. It's Sammy at jewishinteractive.net. I'll put that in the chat box. You can reach out to me, ask me any questions about our resources and what we have to provide for your kids before Hashanah, but they can do it themselves. You can feel free to unmute yourselves at any point to ask any questions. No questions? That's fine. That's fine. That's fantastic. I hope I've engaged you today. And I'm telling you now, if your kids start creating, they will be very different and they'll start thinking very positively about the Chag in a medium that they very much love and understand through technology. Nick, thank you so much for having me this evening. And it's a real pleasure to be a part of a wonderful community session this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much indeed, Reb Sammy, and really thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know that it's already bedtime where you are. Well, to be honest, it's probably bedtime for a lot of us over here, but we're not quite there yet. But we really do appreciate you helping us out with that. Some tech tips to be able to bring some interactive education and games and hints and all the rest of it. We really do appreciate the information that you shared with us. I just wanted to do a quick plug for the production that the Bushey families team have put together. But by way of introduction to that, I just want us to try and think about, you know, the first time that we would have gone out to a restaurant with potentially the people that we ended up marrying, but perhaps not, whatever it is, a first date experience in a restaurant, and we're sitting at the table and we're very nervous. We're trying to find the right things to say. We're trying to find the politest way to eat, and all of a sudden, even though you have been talking for your entire life, even though you have been eating for your entire life, even though you have been drinking for your entire life, all of a sudden, when the nerves hit you, these things seem like it's the first time you've ever done them. And so you're like cautiously picking up the fork or the spoon or the teacup or whatever it is that you're trying to have. And something that you might have been doing your entire life, all of a sudden becomes a very nervous, strenuous exercise. You could have eaten 3 times a day for your entire life, eaten over 19,000 times. And all of a sudden, when you're in this scenario, in this setting, you're very nervous and you feel like you don't know what you're doing. I don't know if that's only experience that I've had, but maybe some of you have had similar experiences. And it could be that some of us are feeling those kinds of feelings now. We could have been parenting for years already. Our kids could already be quite old. And yet going into these Yom Tovim, it could feel like a completely alien experience. How on earth am I going to cope? How on earth is this going to feel like Rosh Hashanah? How is it going to feel like Yom Kippur? How am I going to speak to my kids? Am I doing a bad job? Am I just a bad parent? I don't know. Maybe I am the only person that has these kinds of thoughts. I don't know. But I know that it's what I think about. If I'm not engaging them in the way that they might have had in other scenarios, am I doing a bad job? And so I really just want to say one thing. No, you're not doing a good job. We as parents have been thrown into a situation that we never thought we would have to deal with the, not the burden, the opportunity, let's call it the opportunity of our children's education, our children's Jewish education for the last few months has been on our shoulders. And even though we're back at school now, we don't know what's going to be next week. We don't know what's going to be tomorrow. We've just got no idea where this is all taking us. And so I really just want to say, on behalf of all of my rabbinic colleagues and just everyone, you guys are awesome. You guys are amazing to have been able to contend with the challenges that we have been contending with these past few months. Really just want to get out there. That being said, in Bushey, we saw a big need to try and provide whatever resources we possibly could for our families. And so we have prepared a resource pack, a bit of a gift box to help the families along a little bit. And just to give you an idea of what you will be receiving. Now, this isn't a gift box that is only available to the members of our shul. This is going to be going, we've got 250 of these gift boxes, but we don't have 250 member families. So these are going to be going quite far and wide. And just to give you an idea of what we've been able to put in to these resource packs. So we've got a few games that we have been able to prepare. We've got a game here called Forgive It or Fix It, which is going to come like a board game. We apologize, we can't cut up everybody's cards, but it's essentially a board game. You move your way around the board, and there are these different cards that you'll pick up with different scenarios that you either have to forgive or scenarios that you've made a mistake and you have to think about how to fix it. So it's an educational game. It's related to the themes of the year, but it's something that hopefully parents will be able to play with children and engage with them that way. We've also got a picture bingo that's going to be coming your way. And one of my personal favorites is a double game. Again, I apologize we've not been able to cut it out for everybody, but that's all part of the fun as well. There's going to be a Jewish themed double game themed for this time of year. And there is also a game that we have kind of created. I don't know if anybody's ever played Agricado, but it's one of our household favorites at the moment. And we've created a game called Hands Free. So the instructions will be here as well, but basically what it is everybody will receive cards. You divide the cards up equally. A lot of them are matching. You get rid of the ones in your hand that match, and you basically sit in a circle, work your way around. One player takes a card from the player to their left, and if it's a match, they put it down. If it's not a match, then it's the next person's go. And you work your way around the circle, taking a card until all of the cards are depleted, and you are left with one person holding the phone at the end of the game. And they are the loser, unfortunately, if we can use words like losers when we play games with our kids. But that's another game that's going to be coming your way. We've got some colouring activities, and actually we've got a beautiful picture of the kotel over here. You won't be able to see it so clearly there, but it's a colour by numbers of the kotel. That one's actually kind of meant more for the parents, but there is going to be a children's version coming around as well with some colouring pencils for the children to be able to colour in. And aside from that, we have a guided story and learning discussion booklet that you'll be able to go through with your kids, relevant for different ages. It's all clearly laid out there. And the story is called the Rosh Hashanah and the ballot box. And the aim of the story is to get you to a point where you, along with your children, can choose a little aim that you wish to work on, or your child wishes to work on for the coming year. That's going to be in the box as well. There's going to be some other pointers, some other tips and tricks in the box too. And one of the things that I'm proudest of actually is every single person that receives a box will also receive a 10% coupon at Divrei Kodesh if you want to be able to go and get your kids some kids books before Rosh Hashanah, or you want to go and treat yourself to something, that's going to be there too. And the final thing that's going to be inside is a companion for the High Holy Days, courtesy of Aish, which gives you some of the prayers and some of the stories associated with the days coming up. That's going to be in the box too. There's also a lot of resources that Tribe have put out, which we're going to be circulating digitally. They've put together some children's service companions, some resource companions, some game companions. That's all going to be widely available too. So I just want you guys to feel like you're not alone. We're here, we're trying to support you, trying to make sure that whatever you guys want to be able to achieve with your holidays, you're able to do so. And if you set the bar very low, that's completely fine as well. The point is that we want people to have the access points that they feel most comfortable with. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Rabbi Hughes of Radlett Shul, who is going to speak for a couple of moments. So Rabbi Hughes, if you are there.
Can you see me?
We can see
Hello.
you. Three.
I'm just tuning in from the other side of the world. Lovely to be with everybody tonight. Thank you, Rabbi Kat, for hosting this very, very important evening as we look to give future generations a chance to imbibe the energy and the proper messages of a Rosh Hashanah, which is, I guess, trying like no other. I wanted to say to everybody this evening something quite simple, which is immersion. You know, a lot of the time over the last 6 months, we haven't been able to immerse ourselves in things, you know, things like this tonight where we feel a little bit of disconnection still. You know, we're not really in the room together. And just when we thought we were getting in the clear, the regulations have had to have been tightened again. And we can feel a sense of isolation and disconnection. I think the way we can connect to our kids this Rosh Hashanah is by being immersive as much as we can. You know, I always remember the joke where there was a rabbi who came into the children's service on Rosh Hashanah. He was holding a ram's horn behind his back, and he said to the kids, boys and girls, what do you find in shul today that we don't find the whole year round? And he's holding the shofar, right, on his back. What's in shul today, boys and girls, that we don't see here the whole year round? And one little girl put up her hand and said, Mommy and Daddy. Right? So when we're not in the room, the kids understand and they know we're not in the room. The shofar is one of three components of the theme of Rosh Hashanah. As we say during the Tefillah Musaf, we say Zichronos, which means remembrances. We say Malchios, which means kingships. And then Shofaros, which means shofars. What do these three elements have in common? Well, I would suggest, as some commentaries do, that they represent the past, the present, and the future. Zichronos, which means remembrances, is about remembering, which connotes the past. Malchios, which is Hashem as king, which means he's king now. He has sovereignty over the world, the thing behind me. Now, it's in the now. And then Shofaros is the call of the shofar, which we usher in Mashiach with, which is connoting a messianic era, which is to come in the future. It's past, present, and future. How do you connect your kids to a Jewish future? By having proper roots in the past. And by being able to realize that Judaism is not just something for the past and not something that's going to happen in the future, but it's in the here and now. So these three elements of remembrances, of kingships, of future shofaros, Zichronos, Malchios, and shofaros, the past, present, and the future is key to inculcate within our children's imagination. How do you capture their imagination? Well, what is the book for Rosh Hashanah? Yeah, we don't have a Megillah for Rosh Hashanah. There's not like a story that you can kind of capture Rosh Hashanah with. It's the birthday of the world. Hayom Haras Olam, this is the birthday of the world. I remember that God created the world and we're hoping for a new lease extension on life for another 12 months. And we asked to be written in the book of life, and our deeds and our merits are being weighed up. But what's the story? You know, we all need stories. We're all obsessed. We're all obsessed with Hollywood and stories and soaps and episodic series on TV which capture our imagination, because throughout our lives we need stories, and children need them more than most. What's the story of Rosh Hashanah? So I would challenge you to open the book of Genesis. Genesis is the story, at least the first couple of chapters. That is the story of Rosh Hashanah, the creation of the first human being, how that developed, what happened in Gan Eden. All those stories are as relatable to children as they are to adults. Yeah, so all you have to do is open a Genesis and you'll find the Megillah, as it were, to Rosh Hashanah, the story behind the day. And if you can animate that story to your children, through costume, dressing up. I'm not suggesting dress up like Adam and Eve. That would be a bit minimalistic, even for this generation. But what I mean is, if you can put the costumes on, if you can get immersed into that story of how the world began, and you can look at how it began with the seas and the heavens, and then life form through and plants and life and the moon and the stars, leading to the creation of humanity, and you can make those pages come to life. That is the story of Rosh Hashanah. We are remembering that Hashem created the world in that way, and then we can teach our children that just like God was involved in the creation of the universe, He's with us in the creation of our lives now. And 3, as we move into the future, and all of us are into the subject of futurology at the moment. When will this end? When will there be a vaccine? What's coming next? What will be? Well, the shofar relates to the future. What will be? And we're all hoping for Mashiach that there'll be no more pain and suffering and illness and plague or war. And so we can teach our children through the shofar, which is very physical, and you can very, very much be immersed with that, through understanding Hashem's presence in our lives now, and through reenacting and playing games and having fun and opening up Genesis and Bereshit, the story, and acting them out. Maybe if your kids are into acting or singing, you can sing out the tunes, you can sing out the stories, just like on Seder night when we dress up, right? That biblical narrative of the Exodus there's no less drama in Genesis than there is in Exodus. So I would say that's really, I think, one of the key ways we can relate to our kids and connect immersively is through the story of past, present, and future. Thank you very much indeed for joining tonight. Thank you, Rabbi Ket, for organizing. Thank you to our educators, and thank you for listening. Good evening.
Hi everybody. With that introduction of stories, it leads us perfectly into PJ Library. For those of you who don't know, I'm Sara Kibel from PJ Library, and we send out over 8,000 books to families raising Jewish children every month. That's around the UK. We are in 29 countries in 7 languages, so this is a global program as well. So I'm very excited to be with you all this evening to tell you about ways that we can make you look good. The parents who are thinking we're at a loss of how to engage our children, there's still time to request books. We send out 4 books every month, and this month's books are all to do with the High Holy Days. They are for children aged 6 months to 8 years old. And what I'd like to do this evening is run through the books that we sent out to give you ideas that link to the books, and then also explain about the global resources that we've got on offer for everyone today. So we are reaching out to families so that they can enrich Judaism in the home. The books are delivered directly to children. They come in an envelope with their name on. It's their post. They get to read the books again and again. And 1, 2, 3 Rosh Hashanah is a book that we're sending out to 2 to 3-year-olds this month, and is a really good repetitive phrase book that gets children used to the idea of all the symbolism that's involved. So I would definitely recommend, if that came through your door this week, that it's a story that you read every day to get children excited for Rosh Hashanah. There are many games that you can link with the books and activities. So each of these books come with a program that's available online. I'll share the links in the comments box, and every book comes with a craft, an activity, and a recipe. So the craft for this book is to make Rosh Hashanah cards by drawing around your child's hand with the seam of the fold of a paper along the side, and then you can just cut out the sides and make it into a card. And that's a really nice new tradition that perhaps you might want to do for your family, as people can't be together, to send cards to each other. And the size of that card will grow every year as the child grows. So they're also a very nice keepsake to keep for Rosh Hashanah. The second book that we have got going out for Rosh Hashanah is the 7 to 8-year-old book. So it goes all the way up to Untitled Rock. And with everyone in years gone by being so busy on Rosh Hashanah, you get up, you go to shul, there's a rhythm of having the children's service, going to Kiddush, rushing home, having a big lunch, and Tashlich sometimes just either falls by the wayside or it's something you have to squeeze in before Suda in the afternoon. This year, make it the activity, make it something you can do together as an activity. If your children aren't able to go to children's services, make it an activity that you can do together, and in advance talk about why you're going. What is it about children's behaviour that they might want to improve in this coming year? What are their wrongs that they want to try and right? So we have also acknowledged that Tishrei is a very busy month. So the books have also gone out are about Hillel builds a house for Sukkot and a rainy day story. So Hillel builds a house is a really good story to read with children, especially if you can't have a sukkah this year. It explains how all the different dens that you can make around your house and brings in the whole of the Jewish calendar. So it starts at Rosh Hashanah, it goes through to Sukkot and these building dens through to Hanukkah, Purim, Shavuot, and then back to Rosh Hashanah again. And Rainy Day Story is a story about Rabbi Hanina, and it's about what's good for you isn't always good for everybody else. And who would have known 9 months ago when we were choosing this book that it would have been quite topical. You can bring in the wearing of masks. People might not want to, but for the sake of protecting everyone else, we're all wearing them. So across the company, these books are all available online. But something I'd like to tell you about refers to what Rabbi Hughes was saying, and that there is no Haggadah for Rosh Hashanah. There's no way for us to have a step-by-step guide. So PJ Library created one. It was designed by the same people who made the PJ Library Haggadah that went out this year and last year to our subscribers. And it is a step-by-step guide of what to do in the run-up to Rosh Hashanah, things to do on the day. And I'm going to share my screen with you. Hopefully you can all see that. So these are the 4 books that are going out. This is the High Holy Days at-home guide, and it's a step-by-step guide to the Hagim. It's an information guide, and there are lots of conversation starters in there and explanations for many of the brachot and some of the tefillah that people will be used to hearing in shul. So I'm going to use this guide, but finding ways to talk about this with your children by using the senses of taste and smell. So inside the guide there are references to the simanim that Sammy mentioned earlier, and perhaps bring this to life for your children by having a blind taste test, or to have a simanim bar where they can try them all for the first time. And if your children are really little and you have plastic fruit in the house for a part of a toy kitchen, maybe put them in a bag and try and feel what they are and take one away and work out what's missing. So tastes and smells are very evocative at this time of year. Many memories of grandparents and parents' kitchen as they're cooking apple cakes or whatever the traditional recipes of your family might be. So either go back to those recipes of years gone by or create new ones for your family. Create pomegranate ice cream as a way of trying to get new foods into your kids, but also it's not just traditional apple and honey. There are many other symbolic Jewish foods that we can talk to our children about. So these recipes for honey cookies and apple cupcakes are available on our websites. And why don't you make them as a family and take them on a touchless walk with you? So for the sense of touch, we have got New Year cards and also going on a touchless walk that I mentioned earlier. And it's nice to discuss these things in advance and give children a chance to think about what they would like to, what mistakes do they want to say goodbye to, what are they grateful for, and what would they like to change about their behavior in the coming year. So hearing, we have got a award-winning PJ Library podcast, and in the preparations for the Hagim, if you're on car journeys, running errands, you can play the podcast in a car, and many PJ Library stories are up there to listen to. But there's also links to the songs and many of the tunes that we're used to hearing around this time of year. But there's also how to learn how to blow the shofar. There's a section called Have a Blast with all the notes that are part of learning how to blow a shofar, with crafts of how children can make their own. So we picked out the 5 prayers that we'd like to teach our children from Avinu Malkeinu, with family reflections of how to include children by asking them, like, what would you like to add to Avinu Malkeinu? How can you stretch yourself in the new year? And the tefillah that's included is in Ivrit, and it's transliterated as well, if some of the Hebrew's going to catch you out if you're not that familiar with it, and then also translated so that you can really have a deep dive and really explain to children what it's all about. So with that in mind, I just wanted to remind everybody that as quickly as Rosh Hashanah is going to come and go, we will have the 10 days of repentance in between, which I've not included here, but you can by all means please read up in the guide. And the guide goes straight through to Yom Kippur. So this year we have not sent out a story of Jonah. There's no book about Jonah from PJ Library, so we included the story in the guide with ideas of how to include children on the day, because it's very difficult for children to understand even the concept of fasting, let alone for them to know that why you're not eating. So there's activities to keep little ones busy during the day. So I'm very happy to take any questions if anyone has got anything they'd like to ask. But if you would like books for next week, please drop me a line. I'm going to put my email in the comments. You can have books for Rosh Hashanah to read. I can send you the links to the guide that's downloadable. It's a 50-page guide, and it's really bright, beautifully illustrated. I do recommend that you download and you use it. And if you don't get the books, or you've got family aged 8 and under, please sign them up to receive the books. They come every month, and the post is addressed to the child. So I welcome any questions. Then more details. You can raise your hand or just shout out.
Thanks, Sara. Some really good ideas.
Thank you.
I'm going to do the card one.
Oh, the hand's getting bigger every year.
Yes, well, cute.
Mm.
I'm going to do that one.
That's a good one.
What would you say the best advice you could give to someone who just is feeling unconfident about being able to transmit these kinds of lessons, where usually it's a new world for them to have to do something like that? What would you say is a good tip to get us in the zone?
It doesn't take much to impress your kids. So if you just pick 1 or 2 things that you want to do and do them well, these are all new ideas to them, and their world's quite small. So whatever excites you, if you can get that enthusiasm across to them, if your passion is cooking, try something new. Try apple and honey cookies. There was a recipe about apple and honey cupcakes, and just by sticking a pretzel in the top, it actually looks like an apple. It looks like an apple. And to get your enthusiasm across, and if there's something that's particularly daunting that you would like to venture through explaining to your children, use the guides. They're there to make you look good. They're there to try and help you, and you don't need to know everything off by heart, and it's okay to read and learn together. We hear many really gorgeous pieces of feedback when new books land on families' doorsteps. So we hear anecdotally that parents are learning with their children, like to learn about Tashlich. And inside the flaps of the books, every book has got these little flaps, front and back, with a description of the Jewish values and talking points. Many of them have got 3 questions that you can discuss with your children. And these are open-ended questions. So for the Tashlich one, for talk it over with your kids, The question is, which feels harder to do, looking back at your mistakes you've made or promising to do something new? So if you're asking what's challenging, and it's like, well, trying to think of something new and original, refer to the books. The answers are in there, or the questions are at the very least. So it's got something to do to discuss all together. And what would you most like to throw away about the past year? It's kind of a very approachable way to talk to kids.
Thank you very much indeed. Do we have more questions from anybody on the in the audience? Well,
I will email the Rosh Hashanah guide to each of the 5 communities who are taking part tonight, and they can share that in their newsletter.
thank you very much indeed. And thank you so much indeed for being here this evening and for sharing with us all of the ideas and all of the things that PJ Library has to offer. Just for the record, we are going to have on the YouTube channel, the description box, there's going to be links to everything that you've seen here tonight, to the PJ Library website, to Jewish Interactive, which Sammy was representing, to the TorahLive.com website, which he was talking about. We'll also throw in the Bushey Families Resource Drive as well. We'll put that one in for free as well. And just once more, I'd like to thank Sammy and Sara and all those representing the 5 communities for a really helpful, informative evening. And I just want to say one final time, you can't go wrong with this, guys. There's no right or wrong way. We're all doing what we can to make the best of it and to make it meaningful and to make it exciting for our kids. And we've got some lovely ideas to try things that are maybe a little bit out of our comfort zone, but it will be a lot of fun. Just trust yourselves and enjoy. Most of all, enjoy. You know, we say in the Torah reading coming up this week, the verse says that we have to choose life, and that will give us blessing for our lives and also for our children's life. Choose life for yourself and for your offspring, is what the Torah tells us. And it's weird because if we each have free choice, so we can only choose for ourselves. How can I choose for my offspring as well? How can I choose for my children? And perhaps the answer is that when you choose to do something passionately, when you choose to do something with enthusiasm, when you choose to do something not just because it's a tick in the box, or it's because it's what your friends are doing, or because you feel a pressure to do it, or it's the tradition, or it's my family, or whatever it is, when we reinvent the way that we do things in a way that we feel passionate, enthusiastic, and find meaningful to ourselves, that energy will feed into our children. They will love it, they will be passionate, they will be enthusiastic, and they will find meaning as well. So on behalf of everybody tonight, on behalf of Bushey, Borehamwood, Stanmore, Shenley, Radlett, PJ Library, Jewish Interactive, I want to take this opportunity to wish everybody a Shana Tova U'Metuka. Please God, 5781 will be a darn sight better and blessed and sweet and beautiful and healthy, most importantly, than 5780. That's all from us for this evening. Stick around on Zoom for the after party, but we're signing off on the recording now, and we wish everybody well, and stay tuned for programs and more information from all of your communities. I'm just going to take one final plug, a shameless plug, to be able to share, it's not working, but to share the Sukkah raffle competition that we're running in Bushey Shul. Enter by emailing busheyfamilies@busheus.org, and you'll be entered into a raffle to win a 3x2 sukkah for this year only. Second prize will be a lulav and etrog set. Third prize, £20 gift voucher to Divrei Kodesh. Get involved. We look forward to seeing everybody again soon. But for now, take care and have a safe journey home.
Thank you.